Hi, it's Neil Sean here on your entertainment news. We are with the wonderful, the glamorous and gorgeous, yes, the lovely Miss Sherrie Hewson. She tells us all about her latest book, Benidorm, and so much more. Remember though, Sherrie?
Yes, remember, if you miss it, you miss out.
So don't miss Sherrie today on your entertainment news. Just before we start, you were talking about another icon that I loved, Margaret Lockwood, famous, of course, for the mole.
Yes.
But, I mean, we were talking about old stars and how iconic they are. And, I mean, she was huge in the 1940s, long before, you know, we would. But she was a Gainsborough film star.
Yes.
And we had a proper industry then.
Yes.
What you know, when you worked with her, what was that like for you? I mean...
Well, Slipper and the Rose was a wonderful film anyway, because it had Kenneth More in the start. Yeah. It had, oh my God, he had the actors in it, because it was a Brian Forbes film. They were all his friends, like Edith Evans, and you know, they were all his mates.
You must have been terrified as a young girl.
Well, I kind of didn't take it on board, I think. Again, I was only about 24, and Richard Chamberlain was the most gorgeous creature I've ever met in my life, and became my friend, really friendly with him, and he was lovely. But Margaret, on the first morning of her bit of start to her filming, was nowhere to be seen, and we didn't know, it was just awful, and so everybody got very panicky. And there was a little lady sitting in the corner with a headscarf on, with a fag on, and reading a paper. No any notice of her whatsoever. 2 hours later, everybody's going, if we're not going to find Margaret, we can't. And suddenly we're all shoved out. And it was Margaret. Because, long story, she told me that in Hollywood days, they all wore wigs. So they had under these wigs now, they had very thin hair. She smoked, chain smoked, so she didn't have the best of teeth. All the things you could imagine. And she wasn't bothered. So she sat there like that with her fag on. Anyway, we all kind of went, and about 3 hours later, we're all sitting on the set, and this, I cannot tell you, this beautiful woman, and we all, it took our breath away. She was so stunningly beautiful. But in real life, she was, you know, she used to sit with me with a fag going, oh, you know, isn't this boring? I've been bored with film all my life, but I still do it. And look at my hair, look at my, she wasn't Northern, drinking a Northern accent, but amazing woman, absolutely amazing woman, and icon above all, I think. Sadly, she died as a recluse, really, because she was on her own at the end, except, I mean, her daughter was around, and what I mean is her husband. And so you didn't see her at the end. She kind of kept herself to herself. But like Katharine Hepburn, I think those ladies of that period, they'd been in the stars for so long that when they came to the point where they wanted to stop, they shut the door and go, enough, thank you, enough. But absolutely amazing, and amazing that I was able to work with somebody like her. And I will say one thing, although no camera phones things that existed then, I remember standing in the ballroom when they were all there, and I remember thinking, try and take a photograph in your head and never ever forget this moment in your life. And I did. So the memory is still there for me.
You've been a carry-on girl, though,
yeah,
as well. What was that like? You know,
I did one carry-on film. I did Carry On Behind, and I didn't work with Sid James, and Hattie Jakes, but I worked with everybody else. They were amazing, and I think now we appreciate them, and now we recognise them as the actors that they are. But then, it wasn't necessarily so. It was, you know, a cheap way to make a film.
And you're a young girl, so did you kind of think, you know, when you went into them, it's always the hindsight of maturity, but you're young, you're starting your career, and suddenly you get this gig, but it's a huge gig nonetheless, you know, massive film, and you're making it at Pinewood. It seems all very glamorous because you're
Yeah.
young. But when you got there, did you kind of think, this is all very well, but actually, I'm going for this. But you know what I mean?
Well, um, I didn't. It didn't occur to me. I was terrified because I watched the Carry-Ons. Um, thought it was amazing. Kenneth Williams was the most frightening man I've ever met in my life. So he terrified me. I couldn't speak in front of him. He was just so frightening.
In what way, though?
Well, he was. I was kind of his whipping boy in a way. If you didn't stand up to him, he would actually just swap you down. Yeah. And I didn't know about that. I was only 21 or something. I just come out of RADA, and he came at you. You know, he every time he saw me, he'd go, so where did you train? And I'd go, oh, did you? And it was always snidey comment, and always trying to get me. And instead of going, whatever I could have said now, I just went, oh.
Because you're young.
Yes, the more I did that, the more he'd come at me. And it was like, because he could. And he terrified me to death. Many, many, many years later, we had the same agent, and my wonderful agent died. And we went to the funeral, and he arrived, and I thought, oh, God, please don't be horrible to me today. And he came up and he started at me, and I can't say what I said to him, but I told him to go away in no uncertain terms.
Not as
very
a lady.
loudly. And he crumbled into this little kind of, oh, sorry, Sherrie, I'm really sorry, I didn't mean it. I thought, is that all I had to do all those years ago? Yeah. Why didn't I? But I was so young.
Thank you for supporting British cinema history by watching Talking Pictures TV.